All eyes on the mega LIC IPO, the DRHP of which was released over the weekend. So what exactly will make this attractive to investors? To speak more on this, I'm joined now by DIPAM Secretary Tuhin Kanta Pandey. Mr. Pandey, thank you so much for speaking with us here at ET Now. There's a lot of excitement around the mega LIC IPO, but I must ask you, since we're speaking on the day that markets have been completely hammered and there is a sense of jitteriness in global markets for several reasons, whether it's Fed's interest rate action or the fear of war, Ukraine, Russia, etc. Is this not the best time for such a large IPO?
Well, indeed, there are some headwinds, global headwinds, geopolitical issues. But nevertheless, LIC IPO has been a much awaited IPO. So it's not something that it is suddenly coming up as a surprise.
All right. Another question that has come to the fore after, people have gone through the DRHP and some of those details have come through is about the embedded value. So as per the DRHP, the embedded value has gone up several times in just 6 months, from about 95,000 crores to 5.5 lakh crore rupees. And analysts are wondering what explains this big jump. Can you shed some light on this?
Actually, the basic reason is that, the embedded value is based on actually the concept of shareholders' funds and the policyholders' funds. But, traditionally, as per the legislation, the LIC was maintaining only one fund, and only on the 1st of April 2021, after the Finance Act, this was permitted. LIC was permitted to bifurcate the account. So therefore, the September one was the earliest one when they could have bifurcated. Going forward, it will be, sort of gradual increases in the EV. But this one was basically an accounting issue when the fund was bifurcated and the liabilities, etc., was distributed, assets, liabilities distributed between the two funds. That led to the embedded value concept, where the previous embedded value was based on very minuscule amount of something which was there in the non-par and the shareholders' funds. And it was not taking into account the real fund bifurcation, which happened subsequently.
Okay. Some broader concerns when we get more details about the business, and one of them is the pace at which LIC's new addition of policy holders or policies sold every year has been dropping since 2018. So a little before the pandemic level has hit. We also know that the LIC has been losing market share to private companies. It pays an interest rate which is not linked to equity, so that is a fixed cost which is also ballooning. Do you think that some of these issues will now need clarification in the days to come?
I think the LIC management would be addressing these concerns and questions. I think there is a greater need to understand the LIC's business model and what it holds for future. There is also a lot that LIC is doing going forward in terms of, entering into some of the areas which hitherto it was not concentrating on. This is a part of business strategy that LIC would be, management would be talking about while doing investor outreach.
Sure, but just the point that this is at the end of the day a large behemoth which has been bleeding market share. Do you think that this is something which will have to be kept in mind when you're bringing in retail investors about how LIC hopes to modernize and compete with private insurers as well?
Well, I think if you really say that whenever we have an opening up, somebody has to lose a market share, because that is what competition is all about. But the fact remains that even after many, many years of opening up, the LIC has been able to retain a very high proportion of insurance market, which itself is something which LIC should be able to explain how they have been able to do. Many people wonder that why the LIC has also been able to retain the share despite the fact that the opening up has been done more than a decade ago. So, but nevertheless, it's not to say that the LIC doesn't have to, look at newer opportunities and newer ways of doing business. But LIC also has a very unique business model to its agents across the thing, and there is a certain market segments which LIC is holding on because it is just being more accessible.
Mr. Pandey, this is a mammoth public sector enterprise, and you will be offloading 5% for equity shareholders and into the open market. Now, the way the market traditionally has looked at public sector enterprises that are listed is with a dose of skepticism, because you always wonder whether management decisions will be driven only by business strategy or there will be other concerns that come in. That is the general concern. Do you think that that is something that will have to be explained and that air diffused as far as LIC is concerned?
Well, I think this is also something which I think people need to understand, that things have changed. The economic context has changed considerably. And in fact, if just to give you an example, while it is true that LIC did invest in IDBI Bank, but it is also a fact that in just after turning around the bank and after it has come out of the PCA, LIC and government are well placed to actually get out of IDBI Bank, and the LIC has decided to shed management control there. So the things are changing. So it's no longer a question of government dependent on this. Government itself is very transparent about its own financial accounting. And if you would recall that for the last 2 to 3 years, there is absolutely no off-budget issues remaining in the budget anymore. So I do not know why we are continuing to harp on the same point that the LIC will be used to bail out this or that. If you see some of the issues that we have brought in fact, some of the OFS, you would be surprised to find even LIC did not get even an allotment actually, because there was the price at which the LIC was bidding for those issues was less than the price. I mean, they were outbidded. So things are changing. So LIC is to do its own business in its own way and finding out their own investment strategies and make the best use of the opportunities that they have, subject to the prudential norms fixed by the regulator. I don't think that the government is in any way interested in pressurizing X or Y or Z, and the policy of the government is much more clearer in terms of letting the organization work, and also in terms of divesting in many of the organizations that we are doing. So when the LIC is coming to the listing, for the listing, then obviously these factors have been taken on board, and more transparently the LIC is being offered as a wider public ownership rather than the government retaining the complete share.
So you mentioned one point, sir, and I'll just ask you one follow-up question on it before I let you go. You mentioned one point about the perception that LIC will be asked to bail out this and that and the other, and you've clarified that that's not what the majority owners of the company are intending to do, which is the government of India. But the other side is the kind of business decisions they make. So I mentioned briefly earlier the point of interest rates that LIC offers. It has very few equity-linked kind of products or ULIP products, and they offer a higher rate of interest because for a lot of Indians, LIC is also a place to invest, not just to get themselves, life insurance cover. Do you think decisions like that will have to be re-looked at if LIC is going to be run solely to look at the outcome of profit, like most companies are?
I think the LIC is management will be making things clearer, as we go along, because since it was not, market player yet. So obviously these were the questions were never posed and never answered by the LIC. And now I think LIC will be obliged to not only to answer but also convince people like you and maybe some of the other skeptics how it will be changing.
I'm not a skeptic, but I must put forward the questions, and market analytics is sometimes ruthless. But you have had two major ticks done for the financial year. Air India done, LIC, on its way. What are the next big 2 or 3 steps you have to move towards with the divestment targets in place?
Well, I think let's concentrate on LIC for the moment, and I think we are very keen that the IPO goes through, and everyone, all the investors also feel happy about investing in LIC IPO.
So much for your time.